Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business. Hey, it's Michael Zapersky, and today I'm excited to have Douglas Miller joining us. Doug, welcome.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, Michael. I'm really excited about being on your podcast for the first time. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, definitely. A lot for us to explore and talk about. It's going to be great to have you share your story here. But before we get into that, let's just have you take a moment and explain what you do, what kind of consultant you are for everyone listening.
Sure. My company, WebLink Technologies, what we do is we specialize in implementing and designing Elasticsearch clusters. Over the last couple of years has been really kind of growing in popularity. And for those who don't know what this is, Elasticsearch is a product that was born from the search space, but was kind of morphed to handle data analytics and search. And this is a really exciting field right now because with the explosion of data analytics and data science, companies are looking for an easy way to kind of get into the space. And Elasticsearch is really one of those tools that kind of bridges the gap. One thing, because it's open source, it's free, and it allows companies to scale and solve different types of problems that they normally wouldn't have just a breath to take on.
Definitely. I want to explore that a little bit more, and maybe we'll talk about an example here because probably a lot of people may not be familiar with Elasticsearch, but it's something that probably many of us are using on a daily basis, whether we're logging into Netflix and doing searches or using some other type of online application to search for information on a well-established website or network. But you've worked with companies like Nike, Walgreens, Dish Network, Boeing, and others. And I've seen firsthand through our work together, Doug, the tremendous growth of your consulting business. So it's really great to have you on the show and really to have you share kind of your journey to this point and some best practices that others can benefit from too. And one thing that you've been working on as you've been kind of making this transition the way that you started off, which is like as a contractor or working through another consulting company or an agency, to now building this up so that you are working with your own kind of direct end user clients. Let's just explore that. Why did you decide that was an important step for you to take in your business?
That's a really excellent question, Michael. So just to kind of give people a little bit more background about myself, I've been in technology for a while and I've done consulting on and off again. And I never really kind of, to be honest with you, really knew what I was kind of doing. I thought I did until I really kind of got to a point where I kept having the same types of experiences. And some people might be aware of it, where you are contacted by X recruiter. They're asking you for what your rate is right there on the spot. And you're kind of all over the place as far as what the rate is. You really don't understand exactly what's actually happening with the business. And you're kind of giving them a rate and you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And then on top of that, at the end of the day, at the end of your engagement, you typically don't have any business left. The client is done with you, and so is the agency, unless they can find you something else. So after doing about 4 or 5 years of that, I really started asking myself some questions here. And the questions really kind of came down to the value that actually is being brought to the table. I ran into situations where agencies would typically see me as the talent only, and that's it. No other value was actually brought. Whether you solved the client's problems, whether the client was making $1 million more because of your solutions or what you were doing, you were just typically seen as just talent. And you have no business pretty much after the engagement is done. That's kind of where I really kind of got to the point where I felt like it's time for a change. So I started looking at different ways to kind of change what I was doing and kind of move into the next phase of my career where I no longer had to depend on third parties to kind of find my clients for me. That's when I started down the path of actually exploring what exactly it would take in order to bring major clients to my doorstep.
And Doug, what would you say are some of the big lessons that you've learned that others might benefit from in your journey of going from working through agencies and other consulting firms to actually building your own business with clients that you're working with directly, where you're able to provide a lot more value directly to them, but also receive greater compensation, as part of that value that you're delivering. What are some big lessons that kind of stand out for you?
Well, the biggest thing that I learned is I'm going to put it like this. There's riches and niches. So you have to compartmentalize down or really get good at something that's either considered a niche or something that you can use to kind of set yourself apart from the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is like one of the key determining factors that's going to allow you to be able to kind of scale to the next level. Consulting can be very competitive. So it's really important to kind of differentiate yourself in some unique way and take that one thing and start marketing it directly to companies and getting feedback. And that's exactly what I started doing. So I started with kind of more of article writing and content generation to kind of establish my experience and my skill set from more of an industry standpoint. And so these are things that people were talking about in the industry behind the scenes, but nobody was really publishing or nobody's really starting that conversation. So I started about a year ago with just generating different types of content and articles, which I felt was very key to my industry, and just bringing up that conversation to a lot of companies. And that really kind of started getting the ball rolling. At least it got me noticed.
So Doug, I just want to jump in here because I want to make sure we break this down for everyone that's listening. So what you're saying is one of the steps that you've taken that's worked well for you to be able to shift from working through agencies to actually building your own consulting business, right, where there's a lot more value that can be created, is to work on building your authority, right? And you've done that through content and then being able to leverage that content to share with prospective ideal clients that gets their attention, positions you as the expert that they want to work with, and then that creates a conversation to kind of go further and move forward together. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. That's exactly what I did. And using LinkedIn as a platform to kind of start that conversation is always a good starting step.
Yep.
I kind of got a lot of visibility, and reaching out, having those drip campaigns to your targeted audience is really important. That's like the key thing. It's going to help you overcome that fear and give you more confidence to kind of say no to those recruiters when you really need to kind of get that feedback from the decision makers.
Right. And when you say drip campaigns, just so that everyone really understands, what you're talking about is kind of setting up some of the things that we work through where you are identifying your ideal client, right? And that could be through LinkedIn or another kind of platform or place, and then focusing on how do you start to build a relationship with them in a meaningful and relevant way. How can you add value for them? So in your case, that's like providing content to them. And then when you say drip, really what you're referring to is being able to do that consistently. So it's not just a one-time, I'm going to try and win this person's business type of transactional mindset. It's really about creating and strengthening and sustaining a relationship with ideal clients over the long term. And then you do enough of that, and that starts to build your pipeline, right?
Exactly. And Michael, that's a key thing, building that pipeline. I think it's one key thing that, I want people to know about the campaign. The ultimate goal is to get those clients through your door and actually want to engage with you. But more importantly, you really, really want to build a pipeline. For example, if your content is good and you're really hitting on an area that, that the community is really talking about or is really interested in, you're going to have a couple hundred, 200-300 people looking at that content. That's actually pretty good. Those clicks and those views actually can filter into your overall pipeline. You understand where they're coming from. You understand what they're clicking on, what they're looking at, and what terms are important to them. And that really kind of helps you kind of zero in on who you need to be talking to next.
And Doug, what would you say? I mean, did you face any hesitation when the majority of your business was coming from agencies and other sources, right? Not under your own business, like making that leap from just having business come to you and working kind of you're a consultant, just not a consulting business owner at that early stage, which a lot of people, consider themselves to be consultants or contractors, but they don't actually have their own business. But making that leap to really committing to building your business, did you have any concerns or hesitations when you were applying to make that leap? While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, that's a good point. I think a lot of people might be thinking this, especially people in my shoes that is kind of starting down this road is first, you're going to totally rebel against that idea. You like the idea of kind of being able to kind of have your own business and have your consultant and have clients, but just starting off, you may not totally commit. You may say, okay, well, I'll try it, but then, if somebody comes along with a decent offer, I'm probably going to want to take it. I think the main hesitation is really to say no, basically. To say no to that recruiter that has that $100 an hour offer for you that you really feel you want, but really realistically is not going to get you to where you really need to be. So for me, it was really getting to the point where I was consistently saying no to those recruiters. And I was then following the path of actually still with the drip campaigns and still putting out really good, high quality targeted articles to my ideal candidates, my ideal customers. That was pretty much the scariest part because you don't know if it's actually going to convert. You don't know when it's going to convert. Yeah. Sometimes that causes a lot of hesitancy.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a chicken and egg situation, right? It's very hard to say no when someone's offering you a contract that might be $50,000 or $100,000 or maybe even $300,000 over a period of time. But the challenge that so many people have when they say yes to that is now all their time is accounted for. You can't create more time, which leaves you with little opportunity to build your own business. So you're right. It is very hard to do that. But like the commitment that you made and that others have made it, like once you say, yeah, you know what, I'm turning down short-term money right now, but I'm building this for the long term. And it might mean that the road will be a little bit rockier for a short period of time as I make that transition. But the sooner that I make that transition and start working on building my business, the sooner that you're able to actually reap the rewards that come from actually having a business and not just one agency or client.
Exactly. I think the most important thing is to really take a step back and develop a process of testing. I like to take a process I use called test, operate, test, and exit. So I like to test things first, put a mode of operation in place, test it, operate in it for a minute, and then get my feedback and then create another test for it, operate in for a minute. When it works, then I exit, right? So I know this thing works. So it's really important to have those different types of strategies in place where you're able to say, I need to take one part of what I'm doing and I need to, for example, develop it into a very short resellable package, all right, of hours that, let's say, for example, you can do something in 2 hours, but you're selling it as a 10-hour package, which doesn't take a lot of your time, something you can use to test and put it out there to actual potential customers and get feedback, immediate feedback. That's going to help build the confidence for you to say no to that recruiter that's going to say, I'm going to give you $100 an hour, because you're getting feedback from actual customers and decision makers, which is going to help hone your process down the line.
Definitely. You also mentioned when we just kind of jumped on at the beginning of this call that one of the big things for you has been mindset. Talk a little bit about what you mean when you say that kind of learning a new mindset. Like what was the new mindset or what is the new mindset that you've been adopting and how has it been paying off for you?
Yeah, the one thing that really I realized I had to shift was my understanding of value. That is a major, major mindset shift because most of the people that you talk to won't understand what you're talking about. So really understanding what your value is and how you sell value and how you get your client to understand the value of what you're doing is really a big shift because value kind of really determines what you're going to charge. If that client is coming back and you want to put a pretty big bill rate in front of them, they're automatically going to balk and say, no, we don't want to pay this, but they don't really understand the value that they're getting.
So Doug, what would a before and after look like? So let's say like before this mindset that you've now adopted, how would you have approached, let's say, a client situation around pricing? And then after, let's kind of just look at how you would maybe approach that now in terms of value or the mindset that you would have towards that. So what was the before look?
The before look would be very simple. It would have been 5 minutes on the phone with a recruiter, and probably about the third question would have been, what's your rate? Mm-hmm. That doesn't exist, right? So you really have no concept of your value. You just basically market right. Rate.
And then how about now? So what is your approach now when you're speaking with a prospective client? How are you thinking about value? How's it playing out?
Right. So for a prospective client right now, I'm thinking that I need to understand exactly what their number one goal is. All right. Mm-hmm. And what are some of the pain points that they're experiencing and why they're contacting me? Because what I've found is I've just had some conversations today is that clients contact me now because they're in some type of pain or crisis, mm-hmm. or they're exploring an area and they think they know the value of what they want to get, or they think they know what Elasticsearch can do for them, or they even see the potential of what Elasticsearch can do for them. So they're coming to me because they don't want to kind of go down the path of a really expensive installation and really not getting the value out of it, of what they think they should have gotten. So with that type of understanding, I'm able to approach a client now understanding exactly what are some of the pain points, what are some of the wins and goals and gains that they're going to get from having this, and pricing my value appropriately. It's mm-hmm. more of a percentage of what they're going to get. And some of these clients are pretty big. So let's say, for example, I went from maybe a 6-figure engagement to a 7-figure engagement working with one client, just doing one installation. I mean, before that was completely unheard of as far as what I would even ask for a client. I make sure, for example, budgets, like they have enough budget in order to kind of engage with me before I even, have that conversation with them.
Right. But going from a 6-figure engagement to a 7-figure engagement, sounds like that's had a pretty big impact on your business and kind of the trajectory of your growth overall.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, Mike, because ever since I've been working with you and in your system, I have doubled my double. So pretty much this year I'm on track to do 7 figures, what I'm doing with the client base. And I've been engaged with some pretty large clients that have approached me for the same type of service directly. So this hasn't been through any mm-hmm. third party. And if I name some of the names, people would know who they are. So because of that, I'm able to kind of approach them and say, look, for something on what you're trying to do, this is basically what it's going to cost. And I'll be right. And it's not like it's through a third party. It's basically through utilizing the principles that I'm saying here, understanding the value, understanding what they're going to gain, and then pricing it appropriately based off of that.
Yeah, I think, every time you and I have a conversation, Doug, it's exciting for me because you're sharing a new win or a new progress or initiative or engagement that you've begun or that you're in discussions with. It's just always good stuff that's happening. Like you're always making progress, which I think is really amazing to see. And I'm really just excited by what you're accomplishing. But for people who are looking at their current consulting business, whether they're the early stages or the mid stages, they've been doing this for a while, but they want to achieve greater growth, what would you say to them just in terms of coaching? Like how important do you believe that is for someone, regardless of what industry they're in or what type of consultant they are, in order to grow to that next level?
Wow, Michael, that's a great question. And I'm going to answer it like this. And I'm going to be completely honest. If there's a consultant that doesn't have a coach, they probably won't make it to the next level. I'm just going to be completely honest.
Why do you say that?
Because coaching is really what champions do, basically. If you think about Michael Jordan, well, you can't forget about his coach, Phil Jackson, right? Michael Jordan alone, he's a great talent. He's a great superstar, but people don't realize that he had a coach, all right? He had someone that can direct that talent and help grow that talent. So without an actual coach and a coach in the area that you're trying to expand in, you're not really seeking that third party mentorship in order to kind of get to the next level. All the most successful CEOs in history will have some type of coaching. That's kind of like the best kept secret in the industry, is that a lot of those people that you see are great and they're magnificent. They have very, very good coaches behind them in order to get to that next level. You need a coach in order really to get to the next level.
Yeah. Well, listen, Doug, I really appreciate you coming on here, sharing a bit of your journey. It's been amazing to see the progress and what you've just been accomplishing. I know big things are going to continue to happen for you here. I also want to make sure that people can learn more about you and your work, especially for those who are interested in Elasticsearch. When you've shared with me some of the things that you're doing, just anyone that's not familiar with Doug's work, Doug is a real expert in Elasticsearch. And when you go to like your LinkedIn profile, there's some accomplishments, some ROI that you've helped your clients to achieve, like savings of $500,000 or reducing things by 60%. Like there's some real tangible savings and ROI and value that you deliver for your clients. And I think that's probably also an important aspect of your messaging and that's helped you with your marketing. And so for anyone that's listening to this, just look at what Doug has put together here and what he's doing as a good example of a best practice to build a business and to shift from working with agencies or other consulting firms to actually building your own consulting business. With that said though, Doug, I want to make sure that people can like learn more about your work, have an opportunity to potentially connect with you, if that's all right. Where's the best place for them to go to learn more about you and your work?
You can find out more about us and me from our website at weblinktext.com. I know it's a funny spelling, but it's weblink, then TECHS.com. That's our main website. And of course, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So what we're going to do also is we're going to make sure that we have a link directly to Doug's website and LinkedIn profile in the show notes for this episode. Doug, again, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Michael. This was really a great opportunity to connect, share my story.
All right, man. We'll talk real soon. Have a great one.
You too.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.